Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started. The latest edition of WWE SmackDown came to an end with many surprises unfolding on the show. One of the major surprises was DIY turning heel and dethroning the Motor City Machine Guns as the WWE Tag Team Champions. Not only that, but it also seems like WWE hinted that Solo Sikoa might quit SmackDown in frustration and move to Raw soon. During the recent show, the self-proclaimed Tribal Chief made his appearance along with Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. Before this, fans were witness to a backstage altercation where the New Bloodline tried to decimate everyone, including Apollo Crews and security personnel. While cutting a promo in the ring after attacking LA Knight and Andrade, Sikoa emphasized his frustration over being treated like a joke. The New Bloodline leader stated that while nobody was apparently taking him seriously, he was still the tribal chief of everyone. As a result of this frustration, Solo might soon opt to leave WWE SmackDown and move to Raw after its debut on Netflix. The rationale behind Sikoa's decision could be to move to a bigger show, as he wants to showcase to the world that he isn't a joke. This is why Solo might affirm to move to a bigger stage, which will eventually be the Red brand after its debut on Netflix. Additionally, the company has announced a transfer window, where Raw, SmackDown, and NXT stars are expected to switch brands ahead of Raw's Netflix debut. This could be similar to the Superstar shakeup. This transfer window also makes it a realistic possibility that Solo Sikoa could quit the blue brand and move to Raw. Meanwhile, not only Solo Sikoa but another Bloodline member, Roman Reigns, is also expected to move to Raw in 2025. However, there is no official confirmation yet, but his absence from recent SmackDowns fuels this speculation. It remains to be seen how the Bloodline saga will progress, especially with Solo Sikoa's frustration with how fans perceive him. What if the Bloodline saga moves to WWE Raw in 2025? In case the Bloodline saga moves to Raw after its Netflix debut, it's possible that major names like Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre could shift to SmackDown. Shifting the family drama from the blue brand to the red brand would be a drastic change, as it has always been a central point of attraction for the fans. Furthermore, if the Bloodline saga becomes part of Raw, it likely means that when The Rock returns, he will also be part of the red brand. Overall, moving the Bloodline saga to Raw on Netflix would result in a major shakeup, with significant changes among WWE's top names. Top name targets Solo Sikoa's Bloodline, sends a message to 8-time WWE champion Solo Sikoa's Bloodline, and Big Bronson Reed failed at WWE Survivor Series War Games in Canada when the heels faced the OG Bloodline and CM Punk. Recently, LA Knight called out the faction and sent a message to the new United States champion, Shinsuke Nakamura. The megastar's dream run as the United States champion ended when Shinsuke Nakamura defeated him in a one-on-one match at Survivor Series War Games last weekend. Things got worse for Knight last night on SmackDown as he crossed paths with the New Bloodline. In an interview on SmackDown Lowdown, the megastar was furious and issued a warning to Solo Sikoa's Bloodline by stating he was coming for its members. Moreover, he added he hasn't forgotten about Nakamura and sent a message to the 8-time champion after Friday Night SmackDown. The King of Strong Style is a 2-time Intercontinental Champion, a 3-time U.S. Champion, a 2-time NXT Champion, and a 1-time Tag Team Champion. As a matter of fact, what I want, is my shot at the U.S. Championship. But then enter the New Bloodline, a couple of guys that I spent the last year smacking around. If I had to do it again, I would do it again. Here's the thing, no matter which version of the Bloodline you bring in, this is a different version, but it doesn't make a difference, Knight said. Here's how it goes down, my man. It's going to be me getting my piece of the Bloodline, and then it's going to be me getting a whole big chunk of Shinsuke Nakamura and me getting the belt that belongs to me. What happened between LA Knight, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Solo Sikoa's Bloodline on WWE SmackDown? Last month, Shinsuke Nakamura returned to WWE TV and immediately went after the then United States champion, LA Knight. Later, a title match was announced for Survivor Series, War Games, where the King of Strong Style captured his third United States Championship. On the latest edition of WWE SmackDown, LA Knight appeared and confronted the new champion. This was followed by Andrade, who also wanted a title shot. However, he was abruptly interrupted by Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu. The villainous faction attacked Knight and El Idolo. However, Fatu and company chose to leave Shinsuke alone once the U.S. champion started spewing black liquid from his mouth. In the end, Solo Sikoa made a statement and claimed he was still the tribal chief as he held the Ula Fala. The landscape of WWE was changing, and no faction was more emblematic of this shift than the Bloodline. While Roman Reigns ruled SmackDown with an iron fist, the cracks in his once dominant dynasty grew deeper every week. This time, it wasn't Roman, Jey Uso, or even Jimmy Uso making headlines, it was Solo Sikoa. The enforcer of the Bloodline had grown increasingly disillusioned with the turmoil and politics surrounding his family's faction. His frustration reached a boiling point on SmackDown, culminating in an explosive decision that sent shockwaves through WWE. Solo Sikoa quit SmackDown and declared his move to Raw. The growing tensions. For months, Solo had been the silent but deadly backbone of the Bloodline. While Roman Reigns basked in his tribal chief persona and manipulated his family members to serve his ambitions, Solo stood quietly by, carrying out Roman's dirty work. Whether it was taking out threats or enforcing Roman's decrees, Solo was the dependable enforcer. But even the most loyal soldier has a breaking point. In recent weeks, Solo's demeanor had noticeably shifted. The fallout between Jey and Jimmy Uso had left Solo stranded in a web of family drama. Jey, now thriving on Raw, was vocal about his disdain for Roman's manipulative leadership. Jimmy, after betraying Jey, found himself caught in a cycle of guilt and excuses. Meanwhile, Roman's increasingly erratic demands only added fuel to the fire. On SmackDown, Roman repeatedly berated Solo for failing to control the chaos. This criticism stung, especially since Solo had sacrificed his own ambitions to support the Bloodline. Week after week, Solo remained silent as Roman accused him of not stepping up and not proving himself worthy of the family legacy. Backstage whispers began to grow louder. Solo Sikoa was unhappy. The seeds of rebellion were planted. The breaking point, the tipping point, came during a high-stakes SmackDown main event. Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa were set to face LA Knight and Cody Rhodes in a tag team match. The match was a chaotic spectacle, filled with interference from Jimmy Uso and Paul Heyman barking orders from ringside. Solo, as usual, bore the brunt of the punishment, shielding Roman from LA Knight's brutal offense. In the final moments, Roman demanded that Solo tag him in to deliver the finishing blow. Solo hesitated. The crowd erupted in anticipation as Solo stared at Roman with an intensity that spoke volumes. This was a man who had reached his limit. When Solo finally tagged Roman, he didn't leave the ring as expected. Instead, he stood face to face with the tribal chief, his frustration boiling over. The distraction allowed LA Knight to roll Roman up for the victory, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Roman was livid, immediately blaming Solo for the loss. "You think you're bigger than the Bloodline? You think you're bigger than me?" Roman roared, shoving Solo. Without a word, Solo walked out of the ring, leaving Roman fuming in the center. The crowd chanted Solo's name as he disappeared backstage, a look of cold determination on his face. Solo's Raw announcement the following Monday, Raw kicked off with a shocking announcement: Solo Sikoa was in the building. His music hit, and the crowd erupted as the Samoan powerhouse stormed to the ring. For the first time in his WWE career, Solo held a microphone, ready to address his decision. "I've been the silent one. The enforcer. The one who took the hits and did the dirty work for the Bloodline," Solo began, his voice filled with emotion. "But let me make one thing clear, I'm nobody's pawn. Not even Roman Reigns." The crowd roared in approval as Solo continued. "Week after week, I've been told to fall in line. I've been blamed for failures that weren't mine. I've been treated like I don't have my own legacy to build. Well, that ends now. I'm done being the enforcer. I'm done being the shadow. I'm here on Raw to carve my own path. The declaration was met with deafening cheers. Solo had officially broken free from Roman's grip, and the possibilities for his future were endless. The fallout on SmackDown. Back on SmackDown, Roman Reigns was furious. The tribal chief opened the show with a tirade aimed at Solo. Flanked by Jimmy Uso and Paul Heyman, Roman accused Solo of betraying the family. Solo Sikoa will regret this, Roman growled. There is no bloodline without me. He wants to be on Raw? Fine. Let him rot there. But when he realizes he's nothing without this family, it'll be too late. Jimmy, meanwhile, looked conflicted. As Roman demanded loyalty, Jimmy's guilt over his own betrayal of Jay resurfaced. The tension within the bloodline continued to grow, with Roman's control slipping further out of reach. Solo's first feud on Raw, Solo wasted no time making an impact. His first order of business? Challenging Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. In a fiery backstage segment, Solo confronted Rollins, declaring his intent to prove he was more than just a former enforcer. "You're the workhorse champion," Solo said. "But you've never faced someone like me. I've carried a dynasty on my back. Now, I'm here to carry this brand." Rollins, never one to back down, welcomed the challenge with his trademark laugh. "You want to step into the spotlight, kid? Let's see if you can handle the burn." The stage was set for an epic clash between two of WWE's most intense competitors. Solo's journey to prove himself as a legitimate single star was officially underway. The reaction fans and wrestlers alike were buzzing about Solo's decision. Jey Uso, now firmly established as one of Raw's top stars, was among the first to react. In an exclusive backstage interview, Jey praised his brother's courage. "Solo did what I couldn't do for the longest time. He stood up to Roman," Jey said. "Now it's his time to shine, and I'm here to support him every step of the way." Meanwhile, Paul Heyman took to social media to cryptically comment on Solo's departure. "The bloodline is eternal. Those who leave always come crawling back," Heyman wrote, further fueling speculation about Roman's plans for revenge. The road ahead. Solo Sikoa's move to Raw marked a pivotal moment in his career. No longer confined to the shadows of the bloodline, he had the opportunity to establish himself as a dominant force in WWE. His clash with Seth Rollins was just the beginning of a new chapter, one that promised to be filled with explosive rivalries and unforgettable moments. As for the bloodline, Solo's departure left a void that even Roman Reigns couldn't ignore. The once unbreakable faction was now teetering on the edge of collapse. With Jey thriving on Raw and Solo forging his own path, the question remained, how long could Roman keep the remnants of the bloodline together? One thing was certain, Solo Sikoa's decision to quit SmackDown and move to Raw wasn't just a career-defining moment for him, it was the beginning of the end for the bloodline.